All right, guys, we're going to preview UFC 243 for you. We're going to spend about 2 minutes on each fight on the main card, and we're going to take it from there. So let's jump right into it.
All right, let's do
The
it.
first fight on the main card is Holly Holm taking on Raquel Pennington. Now, obviously, Holly Holm is the opening betting favorite, and I agree with it wholeheartedly, taking on a brawler and Raquel Pennington, who's one of the toughest women in all of the UFC, but unfortunately, I don't think she has the refined talent to be able to take out a Holly Holm. But what are your takeaways from this?
Same here. I think she might be able to actually stay in the fight for the whole fight. I don't think Holly Holm necessarily will finish her, although it's possible. But I don't. Let's say she wouldn't. And is it a 3-round fight? It's a 3-round fight, right? So yeah, I don't see a finish in that case. I would say a decision for Holly Holm. Just outclassed. She's gonna be in and out, just scoring, and that's about it. Honestly, that's what I see.
Yeah, I see Holly Holm just basically teeing off on Raquel Pennington. Raquel Pennington's going to have a little bit of trouble engaging and starting to try to start the grappling up. She's obviously going to be trying to go for some takedowns, but Holly Holm's takedown defense is 78%. That's pretty damn good. And in terms of significant strikes landed and absorbed per minute, they both are very close in terms of how much they're throwing and how much they're absorbing. This is probably going to turn into a bit of a grapple at the beginning to see if Raquel can try to get Holly Holm onto her back, but she will fail, and I see Holly Holm taking this. It's either going to be a ground and pound TKO, which I don't see happening, so I'm probably going to go with a decision as well.
I think as well, and I think Raquel's just gonna have a really hard time with the distance, controlling that distance to get in or whatever. And I think Holly Holm's the favorite on all betting odds, pretty much. So if you bet on Holly, bet in a parlay.
100%, I would parlay that all day. Next fight we have coming up is Luke Jumeau versus Dhiego Lima. Now, Luke Jumeau is from New Zealand, and obviously this card is taking place in Australia, so this is a little bit of a home continent, if you will, advantage. He's taking on the Brazilian Dhiego Lima, who loves to take the fight to the ground, attempt grappling, and start rolling as a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner would. What are some of your takeaways as Luke Jumeau comes into this as a major betting underdog?
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of for a reason that they put him as an underdog in this case. I know he's got kind of the home advantage, but I honestly see a decision as well for Dhiego Lima. I think he will just got the reach advantage, and overall, I think he's gonna. I don't think he's gonna finish him, but yeah, decision for Dhiego Lima.
Yeah, for me, I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm looking at some of these fights. I see that Jumo's fought Abe last, and he lost to Anzai, and then he fought another individual named with the last name Steele. These are all kind of not household names in a way. I've heard Dhiego Lima's name a few times. This might be one of those situations where that 91% takedown defense is gonna be put to the test. Obviously, in terms of takedowns per 15 minutes, Dhiego Lima is averaging 2 takedowns. So that's at least 2 grappling exchanges. And if he holds them down if those 2 grappling exchanges happen in 2 different rounds, that's 2 rounds for Dhiego Lima. I got Dhiego Lima via decision, despite the hard-fought obviously the stand-up attempts from Luke Jumeau. I see a little bit of an issue there in terms of dealing with the grappling, especially when guys are getting tired. So I'm going to go with Luke Jumeau taking the loss here. Dhiego Lima will win, and I'm just going to throw out the submission victory there in the second round.
It is possible, and I think Luke Jumeau might be more put on this card just because of the home kind of, to draw the crowds, how they do that at the UFC, as opposed to his actual quality to be in that type of fight.
100%. I can see that happening right there as well. Now, next up we have Tai Tuivasa, who's 8-2 right now. He's coming off of 2 losses right now. JDS and Blagoy Ivanov, your boy from Bulgaria. So obviously fighting in Australia now, Tai Tuivasa is in a sense, in my mind, being put on notice in terms of, are you going to be in the UFC long term or not? Those 2 losses, yes, they were reputable names in terms of being veterans and being able to be, some real contenders in the sport. But we have Sergey Spivac here. If Tai Tuivasa wants to retain that top 15 contendership, he needs to win this fight. What are your thoughts about this?
Absolutely, you're 100% correct. I think that's pretty much a career-defining kind of fight, although the opponent is not like a super famous guy or anything like that, but it's just for him to stay in the UFC, he needs to win, definitely needs to win this, especially having kind of the home advantage as well. I actually will go with him. I think he will win it. I think he will get a finish actually. And I mean, there's no shame, like you said, in losing to Blagoy and Junior Dos Santos, but Tuivasa came in so hard into the UFC with kind of a hype behind him.
Yeah.
So I think he will stay in the UFC and he will stay for a while. I think he's gonna be one of those fighters kind of like up and down, and I think he will have a couple fights up now.
Yeah, I definitely think Tuivasa is going to win this fight via TKO. He's probably going to rock him, take him, then he's going to go down to the ground. He's going to finish him on the ground. And I'm going to be seeing him do some shoeys for the Australian crowd.
Yeah, for sure. I see that too.
Disgusting.
Disgusting. Absolutely.
And next up we have for you guys is Iaquinta, Dan Hooker. This is a fight, a match made in heaven. This is two of the most violent guys we have in the sport. Two of the most active brawlers and who mix in their takedowns when they absolutely need to. But this will stay standing. Don't get it wrong. This is going to be an amazing kickboxing match until Iaquinta might feel like he needs to go grapple and go for a takedown. But I do see this being a big barn burner. What are your takeaways? I think Dan Hooker might actually make a mark here on Iaquinta.
Okay. I think I'm actually going to go in the opposite direction this time. And I will say that, yes, Dan Hooker is amazing. I'm not going to take anything away from him. Obviously, great reach, great kickboxing. But I think Iaquinta is just way too experienced at this point. I saw some interviews of him. He looks hyped up as usual.
Yes, like usual, Raging Al.
He was actually saying that he's like really committed to this stuff now. Mm-hmm. Like it feels like he's kind of worked out his issues with the UFC. He was like
half in, half out, kind of like,
Right. So now I think he's more committed, which, even on a short notice against Khabib, we saw him do not too bad. So, I think at the end of the day, Dan Hooker might try to, control the distance and all that, but I see Iaquinta getting in there and taking him down and perhaps even finishing him with some ground and pound.
Right on. I see Dan Hooker actually coming out and surprising some people and performing for his not home country, but obviously the home area, Oceania. Now, obviously, with Dan Hooker coming in here, he brings the reach and the kickboxing experience into the mix. I think that Dan Hooker has the ability to match in terms of speed and match in terms of, or actually superior in speed. The length is going to be great. If he can manage the distance and not let Al get inside with that boxing, if he can keep it at kickboxing range, Dan Hooker has a huge advantage from the kickboxing range. So this is one of those things where his toughness will help him endure a couple Iaquinta power shots that he's inevitably going to absorb. Dan Hooker's never been a guy who's the most elusive in the cage, but neither has Iaquinta. I think this is going to be shot for shot. Iaquinta's super tough. I see Dan Hooker grinding out a decision victory over top of Iaquinta in an upset.
Who's the favorite? Do you know the odds?
It's actually a pick'em right now. Iaquinta is actually a betting underdog in certain respects. So if I'm putting money down, 100% putting some money down on Iaquinta. That's where my money is going. But where my pick is going in terms of, just because you can win with Iaquinta, and it's such a pick'em, it's a toss-up. This is a 50-50 as much as anything else is. Dan Hooker, I got a gut feeling. I'm rolling with it. But again, I would take that underdog Iaquinta as the betting.
Right. It seems like the odds makers, the bookies, are not even sure either because they have him all over the place. Some have him as the favorite. One guy's the favorite, others the other guy. And I would go with Iaquinta finish. If he can put him against the cage, I go with Iaquinta finishing this fight.
There it is. Last up for you guys, the most exciting fight I've seen since, I don't even know what to say. I mean, Jorge Masvidal maybe, on paper at least, against Ben Askren. I was super excited, but for different reasons. Robert Whittaker versus Israel Adesanya for the middleweight championship of the world. This is going to be an amazing fight. Israel Adesanya coming in with his rangy 6'4" frame, 80-inch reach. He's got a near 7-inch reach advantage over top of Robert Whittaker, who has obviously been a very dominant fighter in his time. He's gone through some wars. Yoel Romero obviously comes to mind, both fights. Some absolute barn burners. But with that being said, Robert Whittaker was supposed to fight Kelvin Gastelum earlier this year. Israel ended up stepping in and taking out Kelvin Gastelum. And here we are with this last style bender taking on the Reaper. What do you see coming out in this fight?
First of all, super excited to see that fight, and I gotta say, man, it's a very tough fight to pick. Like one of the hardest fights you could ever try to pick.
Right.
But with that being said, I still think that Robert Whittaker will prevail. I actually think it will be a decision, which is kind of unfortunate, but I think it might be a decision. And because we know both fighters are real warriors, and even Israel, we already saw against what's his face, his last fight,
Israel? Calvin.
Calvin. He took a lot of punishment as well, and he stayed in. He can take it, he can bring it, and I think also Robert Whittaker has proven that as well against people like Yoel. Which, I mean, come on, if you can do it against Yoel, like, jeez. But yeah, I got Robert Whittaker decision. It's gonna be a lot of fucking exchanges.
I've got the opposite. I've got Israel Adesanya winning this fight. He's going to become the middleweight champion of the world. I just don't think that Robert Whittaker has the answer for Israel Adesanya's ability to just pinpoint accuracy, hit you on the way in. You think you have the advantage, and all of a sudden this angle is gone. The place where he was gone, and he's going to hit you, and he's going to catch you, and he's going to be able to deal with your power. And that's the thing that's underestimated about him the most, I feel like, is because of his slight frame. People think that he doesn't possess that power, but I think just the ability for him to not take punches while also delivering punches.
Yeah.
Like, more than half of his strikes are significant. They land about the same amount of significant strikes per minute. But if you look at absorbed, Israel is very elusive. He did get clipped in the Calvin fight. He was getting punched. He ended up with a puffy lip. He ended up getting hit a little bit, and he proved he can still win against the fighting Mexican spirit. I see Israel Adesanya going and fulfilling what he sees to be his destiny in this fight. The 17-0 legend will continue, and Robert Whittaker will probably, in my mind, put up a huge fight, not look like a scrub. It's going to be a tight fight. It's going to be a war, just like Yoel Romero were, except I think Israel comes out on top.
Yeah, but there's definitely a lot of things working against Robert Whittaker in this fight. His layoff, his previous injuries, the younger or whatever, like younger in the game, Adesanya hungrier and all that stuff. But I think decisive factor from my perspective would be Robert Whittaker's experience in MMA in particular.
Right.
Is going to overwhelm Israel Adesanya is more, kind of, being newer to MMA.
Right. Israel Adesanya, I will say, is someone who has fought so many times in 1 year, so many years in a row. There is a lot of fight experience, MMA fight experience, a little bit different. Israel's admitted he's brought himself along a little bit slower than a lot of other people, not in terms of not taking fights, but in terms of level of competition, in terms of how often he's going to be going and engaging in these brawls, these wars. He's kind of just been pacing himself, not doing too much. Look at Derek Brunson. He could have finished him so many times. Like, he kept knocking him down, patient, knocking him down. I like seeing guys who are showing that level of maturity. So, yes, the experience is there, but I've seen the demeanor in the cage to indicate that Israel will be calm. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comment section. This is definitely a pick'em all the way on down for every card, every fight on this card, on the main card that we've been previewing. Let us know. Sound off. We'll be sure to answer in the comments and address those later.
Yeah, be careful that last fight. Whatever, we can't really make a recommendation. It's either way. But if you want to parlay with anything, you can maybe run 2 separate parlays with each one. But whatever, it's up to you guys.
I mean, yeah, this is a tough one to put some money down on. I would probably try to. I don't even know. Honestly, I wouldn't really touch much of this card because there's not much here where there's value picks.
It's
where you're
risky.
Like, give me that. That's obvious.
Yeah.
Like, there's none of those obvious gimme picks. This is one of those where, if you're right, though, you will make a good amount of money. So be smart. Robert Israel, flip a coin. You're just as smart as crunching all the numbers. The same thing goes for Dan Hooker, Iaquinta. But for the most part, other than that, you can take those two, flip a coin, see what's going on.
Yep.
I'm excited for this card. This is what we're waiting for as UFC fans. This is going to be an amazing fight, both the co-main event and the main event. And I just can't wait for this fight happening in Australia.
For sure. Very excited to see that.
All right, we'll check you guys in my next one.